Hey friends, and welcome into the Loochador podcast. After Texas A&M does defeat Auburn 16-10, this is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. He's Billy. I am David, and I told you I wanted to get a rucksack. That hasn't happened just yet, but I do need some new running shoes, so I know where I'll be.
Actually, same on both fronts. So why don't you let me know, and we'll go in there and we'll do that, and we can even do we did that commercial for them for social media. We could do that in real life. We're not pretending. I mean, we did buy the stuff. We did where we got the good stuff, the Jordans, but this time we can actually do a real shopping spree where we kind of walk around and pick what we want. We can see who spends more, or
it'll probably be you.
Play like guess the cost of the basket, and then kind of like The Price is Right. Yeah. Whoever gets closest without going over has to buy the other person's basket.
Good. Yeah, we can do that. Okay. And I think it'd be interesting to see what goes in your basket, what goes in my basket.
Yeah, I mean, probably not that dissimilar.
I'm an outdoors guy.
I told you I might be
a lot of guns and a lot of ammo.
I might be going on another mountain trip November, the buy. So if I do, I might outdoor your ass.
Well, you can try to outdoor me. Can you please don't out-penalize me? That was a horrible segue. So I'm going to tell you something that I think, Bill, and you react to it. I think there's so much fear in this A&M.
You want a physical reaction or a verbal reaction?
I want both.
Okay.
There's so much fear in the Aggie fan base. Let me turn my hat back around, not over the top, that people can't have fun in a win. A stressful win at times, but it was a win against an SEC team that almost beat Oklahoma because they were able to move the ball in Oklahoma. They couldn't move the ball on A&M yet. I don't know if our fan base is having enough fun with what is happening at 4-0 because everybody just wants to see the mistakes down the road as opposed to the right now.
What's your definition of fun? And I'm not really asking for a real answer,
but that game was stressful.
Well, no, I was
But they won, and I was never really that worried. Was I worried when they had the ball 16-10? Yeah, of course I was a little worried. But I was like, the way this defense is played, and that was the most Mike Elko defense we have seen since he's been here.
I was worried
this time.
I was worried when you let a team hang around like Beetlejuice in that GIF. You let them hang around, and you're asking for trouble. Mm-hmm. And A&M did that with Auburn far too many times. And you were flirting with disaster. And let me tell you something. Losing that football game would have been a disaster.
Yes.
Okay? Losing not to Auburn, but
the way that game
to played. Auburn, with the way that game played out, it would have been gifting an SEC football game away. You're gonna lose. I think everyone in the league, I've said this all year, everyone in the league is going to lose a conference game. You're going to lose one. You might lose two and still go to the playoffs. You might lose two and still go to Atlanta, but you can't give one away. It's hard, almost to impossible to finish a season and not regret giving one away. And they kind of gave one away to not the exact team, but this same team last year. So you can't, it would have been a disastrous loss. And so when you're flirting with that, it makes it very stressful. Because as a fan, you care so much and you're so invested and we should be winning this game. This was not like the Texas game last year when you're watching it going, man, they're better. Or the South Carolina game last year when you go, man, we lost our star player, they're pulling away. It's not even like Notre Dame where you go, man, both teams are just making play after play. Somebody's going to lose. This was one you knew your team was better. You knew your team was outplaying them significantly. But here's the part of being a fan. And here's the part of us analyzing the game, too. You can go into this stuff that, hey, this could haunt you down the road. As long as you stick with this could win you a bunch of games down the road. This versus these teams on that schedule win for you. This versus these teams could lose for you. You can break it down like that. But to me, you have to start off with this. Very stressful. Wasn't pretty on one side of the ball. And really more penalties.
Yeah.
But one side of the ball, I mean, you scored one touchdown, and it was on your first drive. So it was a struggle, not yardage-wise, but just finishing. But you went out as a team and got the job done. The job was to beat an SEC football team and start the conference play 1-0. The job was to finish September undefeated, to get to 4-0, to not give back the momentum from that Notre Dame game in 1 week. Like a lot of people, not around college football, but just other fan bases, even people within this fan base were coming up to me, well, I hope we don't screw it up. I hope we don't. And that's what you're talking about. You did what you were supposed to do. And yeah, I was nervous because you're letting them hang in it and because of what a loss would have meant to the momentum, because you just knew, like, just win this and keep this thing going. Because you know this team has a chance to do something special. Yeah. And I think everybody understands that, so that angst. But look, there ain't no reason to be stressed when you're outplaying a team and on one wild-ass, game-changing momentum play, you look up and you're up 3 points in the fourth quarter. That's called being a fan. Now, if you're sitting there with no hope and you're like, no, we've outplayed them for 48 minutes of a 60-minute game so far. We're still ahead. Our defense is locking them down, and we're playing at home. If you can't get past the nervousness to kind of take a step back and realize that, because yeah, I was like, man, you're one play, right? You shut Cam Coleman down all game, and then all of a sudden Jackson Arnold breaks contain and launches one. So yeah, you're flirting with that. But were the odds higher of that happening, or this A&M defense getting a sack, getting a forced fumble, picking off a pass that they had their hands on 3 or 4 times? Though that's what you had to do, I think, if you were stressing and go, the odds are much higher that we win this football game than lose it, even though it's tight. And I'm going to tell you something, David. It reminded me at times, it reminded me a lot, actually. Now, I'm going to say this. It's going to be really interesting when you think about it. And someone that actually would know more than me played in that, or said this to me last night. I was like, damn, that's a great point. Someone, it was a former player, and said that game reminded them a lot of last year's Texas game, just in reverse.
Oh, yeah.
And you think about it, and it's like Texas controlled that game. They ran for a ton of yards versus us running for nothing. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They were up 17-0 going in to make it 20 or 24-0. And then they're kind of right around the red zone, right? And all of a sudden, Will Lee with a pick six.
Changes.
And you look up and you go, damn, is this really 17-7? And then next thing you know, the Aggies block a punt, or they force a fumble, block a punt, yada, yada. And all of a sudden, you know, you got the ball inside the red zone with a chance to make it 20 or 17-14. And if you're on the Texas side and you're trying to play for an SEC title and at the time a playoff, or you're sitting there going, what in the hell just happened?
Right.
We've controlled this whole football game. We're winning the line of scrimmage. They didn't really seem to have a pulse, any kind of fighting chance. And all of a sudden, here we are from one play.
Mm-hmm.
It was really similar. And just like Texas did to A&M with that goal line stand, when A&M had to, they just stood up, and the defense, which had dominated the whole game, go back to last year, go back to Saturday, the defense just said, no, man, we've been playing like this all day. This stuff ain't changing right now.
Yep.
So don't worry about it. We got this. And for me sitting there going, man, if they let this one go, what's this week going to look like? And for the fans going, man, if we let this go, it throws away all A&M, all Notre Dame momentum and stuff. That wasn't the feeling on that sideline, where they just said,
okay,
hey, dogfight. And guess what? We've been winning this dogfight for all day, and we're going to keep winning it. And they did that. And there was really I never sensed any panic or nervousness over there. So that's one of the real good takeaways.
Yeah.
Is you beat an SEC team with your, I don't want to say B game because the defense was so great, but your B game, because
you made mistakes.
You did not capitalize. Honestly, David, I mean, that was what? Well, that was
they left 14, 20 points on the table?
It was 10-3 at the half?
They left 23 points at the table.
It was 13-3 at halftime, and they had missed a field goal. It's 16-3. Then they came out. I honestly think at 16-3, that game felt at halftime, I would have felt like they're not coming back from this. Technically, though, 17, 2 touchdowns. So let's just say, had they made the 2 field goals in a row there, 19-3, I think that game was over. It could have been over by the first drive of the third quarter. Yep. And they let it not be. So that's for Mike Elko and the players to work on. And in hindsight, it might be a good thing for him to be able to go to a winning locker room and say, you guys are good, but you ain't great yet, and you're not going to be until you clean up the things that you can clean up. And I did think, there were some god-awful calls in that game.
Yeah.
But the Aggies did finally get a couple holdings go their way, which were blatant holds. But I can't tell you how many times I've watched those calls not get called right in front of me. And they wiped out 2 really important plays by the Auburn offense. And again, those plays happened because of the blatant holes, but they finally got the calls.
Here's something that makes me happy and gives me optimism. This year, we have seen them win different types of games. You want to win a shootout? We can do a shootout, and we can win. You want to see a team run the ball? That's what they did yesterday. They ran the ball very effectively against a team that was giving up 56 yards rushing a game. You want to win a defensive game? Our defense brought it. And I think this year, it's only 4 games into the season. Everybody was panicking after Utah State and UTSA. These last 2 games, I think, are more who the Aggies are for obvious reasons, and they've shown different ways to beat you.
There are a few things that stand out to me that I've been thinking about since this game that involve other teams and big picture stuff. But let's start with this. Since that first half against UTSA, so that first half against UTSA, look at the second half from the minute that guy broke that 75-yard run. Hardy. I mean, not Hardy.
Henry.
I get Henry and Hardy. They're going to face Hardy still. When they face Henry, a 75-yard run, shut that team completely down in the second half, completely and totally. Utah State, they generally shut down. They had a drive to open the third and then a garbage drive. That Utah State team scored 35 against Vandy yesterday. Yeah. Not that Vandy's a defensive juggernaut, but still.
They're undefeated.
They went in there and put up 35 and put up a fight. And then against Notre Dame, I said it, after that game, they made more positive plays defensively, good plays, impressive plays, significant, impactful plays against the best offense they'd faced versus in the first 2 games combined. And then to come out this week and shut down Auburn. Look, I don't want to hear anything about Auburn's offense. I know they're not good. They also really scored 3 points against Texas A&M, a field goal. Had it not been for that pick, that team wasn't sniffing the end zone. And if you look at what they did to them, it was absolute destruction.
Is it 0 for 15 on 3rd and 4th down conversions?
That's the biggest stat. 0 for 15 on 3rd and 4th down, which is remarkable. They recorded 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, broke up 4 passes, had 4 additional hurries, just total havoc. Auburn's best player, who I told you one well-known college coach told me this past week, thought he's the best receiver in college football. Des Ricks and Will Lee made him look like not even the 3rd best receiver on the field on that day. And I'm saying that as Ashton Bethel Roman also outgained him.
Yep.
It was a clinic, 9 punts forced. It was a clinic that defense put on. So Auburn's not good offensively. They shut them down completely. They did what you're supposed to do and then some. That was an elite defensive performance. You don't have to couch it by saying that's not a good offense because, they weren't going to hold Notre Dame to really, in truth, 3 offensive points. Nobody is.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that to other teams on the schedule that are better. They're going to do that to Missouri. They're not going to do that to Mississippi State this weekend. I'd love to see it, but they're not holding them to 3 points. They're probably not keeping teams like Missouri, Mississippi State, or even Arkansas out of the end zone. But what they did Saturday, they took an offense that was struggling, and they just put the clamps on it, wrapped them up, and pushed them aside and said, "You want the ball back to try to win it? Take it. You want the ball back again to try to win it? Take it, because you're not going to do." But you're going to gain 1 yard in the fourth quarter is what you're going to do.
But Billy,
and you're going to like it.
Is the offense struggling, or did two defenses show up? Because against Baylor, they scored 38 points. They scored 42 against Ball State. I guess my point is this defense in the beginning of the season wasn't doing that, and there may have been reasons for that, how much they were showing. Now they've done it.
Yeah, they're getting better each week, and it's really encouraging. You see individual players getting better. You see guys stepping up like a Damian Sanford when Scooby Williams goes down. You see the corners getting better and better. You saw Will Lee really, I think, be challenged after that Notre Dame game and just really rise up and play like we expect him to all year. Tyreek Chappelle's quietly getting better and better in that nickel. You forget that he missed all of last season. And then the guy that I keep talking about, I've said it a million times, and people went from rolling their eyes. People went from going, "I wish he'd shut up about him." People went from going, and now you know what they're saying? "Man, I hope we don't lose him to the NFL draft." Because you can't just enjoy it. You got to have something to worry about. Des Ricks playing outstanding. So you see individual guys getting better. You see these transfer portal guys having more and more impact.
Nyblack had a big play.
Nyblack with a big catch. I'm talking about defense, though, right now. And like Searcy, Deion Hayes. Onyedem has continued to do it. So little by little, man, you're seeing this defense come on. And you made the point about Auburn's offense. Maybe they played A&M and OU. That's fine. It's a good point. But you know what? You know what nobody was doing or is doing? Comparing A&M and OU's defense. You know what everybody tells me? Everybody tells me that OU and LSU are like the best two defenses in the SEC. I had 1, 2, 3, 4 minimum people that I trust college football and trust that cover the SEC tell me, and including a former coach, that OU D-line was probably the best in the country. And that their defense was, hey, it's a Brent Venables defense. It's this elite unit, yada, yada. I agree. I watch them. They're pretty destructive. You watch them, you go, damn, they're impressive. Go compare the stats. And here's what the OU fans are telling me. Well, we showed the code. We showed how to stop them. I don't think they did very much of the same that OU did. Mike Elko and Brent Venables are completely different styles of coordinator. Auburn almost doubled the yardage against OU that they had against A&M. They moved the ball well at times in that football game, despite 10 sacks. They moved the ball well at times. Jackson Arnold, I think, pull up those stats in that game. And I know, I want to do something here.
In the Oklahoma game? Or
Oklahoma and Auburn.
Yep.
The Aggies, when you look at A&M, they held Jackson Arnold. Look, I want you to look at net yards rushing, yards per play, total yards, net yards passing. And both of them excelled on third down. And Auburn is terrible on third down. They were 0-for against A&M. I think they were like 2. And this is not a knock on OU, by the way. This is me saying everybody that you talk to will tell you how great that OU defense is. And I'm not arguing it. So don't get your feelings hurt over here. This is a compliment, but I'm also complimenting this A&M defense. Go ahead.
I'm probably looking at the wrong stats.
How could you possibly be?
Because I picked up ESPN.
Well, go ahead. Let's hear them.
So what are the questions?
Make sure you have the right year, and we're good.
Yeah.
Net yards rushing, net yards passing.
Okay, net yards rushing, team stats.
Auburn.
Auburn had rushing yards, 67 against OU.
Okay, 52. Okay. And by the way, that's with 5 more sacks taking away. Okay, net yards passing.
220.
125, so 100 less. Total yards.
Total yards here. Doesn't say on the sheet. This is great. This is awesome.
Okay, I'm going to make it easy for you.
Do the math.
They were around 300. They were a little over 100 yards more. I think Auburn averaged against A&M. Auburn averaged
287.
Yeah, so 110 yards more. They averaged 3.1 per play against the Aggies. I think they averaged 4 point something against OU. The Aggies gave up really 3 points in that game. OU gave up 17. Cam Coleman had 3 for 88. He had 4 for 18 this week. Texas A&M played every bit as well against this same team a week later as OU did. Now, you want to go talk about the A&M offense, because all I hear about is John Mateer and this OU offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go look at those numbers.
John Mateer, 24 of 36, 271, and a touchdown.
Okay, Mateer threw for 271, Reed threw for 207. I think the percentages are pretty similar.
But they rushed for 32 yards. A&M rushed for significant.
207.
Yeah.
OU ran for 32. A&M ran for 207. Total yards, the Aggies outgained them by about like 150. And yards per play weren't even close.
Jeremiah Cobb had 61 yards against that Oklahoma defense.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything against A&M.
I'm talking about A&M's offense now. Their offense outperformed. Now, you say, well, OU scored 24. A&M scored 16. But by the way, OU scored 22 because one was a safety. And oh, by the way, 30-ish of those yards from Mateer and that touchdown and those points shouldn't have counted.
Right.
That's a 15-yard penalty. They may have scored 15. So my point is this. I'm hearing a lot more, up until this week, really. You hear more about OU and Mateer and that offense. It's like they're holding Reed. I see some quarterback rankings even today. It wasn't his best game. He needs to hit some of those deep balls, but he played well. He made a bad throw on that play. Bussey still should have caught it, should have got tackled. Everybody messed up on that play. You can question the call. A lot of people we talked to said the call's not bad. The call, I'm sitting there going, we all do. Run the ball, run the ball. 3rd and 1, run it. You got Moss. But when they're all packed in, you throw it. I think that it's a low risk of the point. The risk is
they'll throw high.
The risk is they bust it up, or it's incomplete, or you lose a few yards. It's still a field goal. Just like if you don't get it. I would always say, I bet if they had it to do over again, I'd say, just run it. If we don't get it, we can go for it or not. But sometimes are you playing to win or not? And to kind of play to pop that screen and think they might have thought that might have been 6. Hey, if they're going to do this, we can throw that. If we get one block, it's a house call. But my point is, like, it's not like Reed didn't play poorly. He just missed on some deep throws, hit a couple short drops, and the penalties killed. I mean, here's what he actually did as a thrower of the football, and as the quarterback of the team. They went down when it was 13-10, and they went down when they had to, and he threw a perfect strike to Mario Craver for a touchdown. That had nothing to do with the lineman being a half yard further down the field than they were supposed to. He made that throw, game over. And then there's a penalty, you kick a field goal, and then there's more drama. But then you compare A&M's numbers against Notre Dame to what Miami did a game later, and to OU, because what we're talking about right now when I say that? We're talking about a couple of top 5 teams and a team in Notre Dame that is now just laying waste to everyone they play, and just got Sam Pittman fired a week earlier than I predicted. Holding Notre Dame to 33 points doesn't look nearly as wild as it does when you see what they've done since. Yeah. Over 50 a game, and they just literally just had to shut it down at halftime at Arkansas because they might have all been arrested for like animal cruelty, doing that to a bunch of pigs. So, a bunch of hogs. But that was, I'm telling you, this team, and we'll talk about what they did to almost cost themselves a game here in a second, but this team, when you line them up and measure it up against other teams around them, they're properly ranked right now as a top 5-6 team in the country. That what they've done on the field warrants that. And so if you're not an Aggie and you're not worrying about it, or you're not an Aggie and you're not overhyping it in your mind, whichever one it is, what the rest of the country is doing is, trying to evaluate your team without bias. And the numbers against certain common opponents and what they've done on the field matches up to what their ranking is and what people are saying right now.
So, do you want to get into what almost cost them the game, which was penalties? and and then penalties, especially momentum-killing penalties. You lost a touchdown because of a penalty. You had first downs taken back because of a penalty.
Yep.
Le'Veon's numbers would have been better.
Oh my God.
He had a couple really good runs that were taken back.
Le'Veon ran for 120 something, 139, and he had like a 25-yard run taken back.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about like 165-yard day.
And he wasn't feeling good.
And by the way, that play was a terrible holding call on Mark Naboo. Le'Veon was 5 yards past him. It wasn't even holding. And it was a 25-yard run that set him up at the 40 after they took the first drive and scored. And instead, they had the ball inside the 10, drive over, and it affected field position for much of the rest of the first half. Because that's when the A&M offense kind of
stagnant,
bogged down a little bit. And again, we talked about it. Durkin's good. They got good players on that side of the ball, and that's a tough unit. And they made it tough on the Aggies, but the offense, like you said, I wouldn't say moved it up and down, but they consistently
moved it enough.
They consistently moved the ball. They the way they played minus the penalties, you're easily talking about a 30-plus point game. Easily. I mean, so you you make the 2 field goals, and you turn one of those field goals into a touchdown, and so you're up to what? You're at 16, you're up to 22, you're up to 19, you're at 26 points or so there, just there. A guy that's a half a yard further downfield than he should in 2 missed field goals. So I think the penalties killed them.
They had almost as many penalty yards as Auburn threw for.
You cannot have 13 penalties in back-to-back games and win against one being an SEC team, the other one being probably a top 15 team in college football on the road. It just doesn't happen. Well, it happened twice. Elko knows, his team hopefully knows as well, they're not going to continue to get away with that. It could have cost them 2 games. A&M could be sitting with 2 losses right now, and not only the locker room, but the coaching staff, the fans, everybody could be completely down in the dumps. And we would have been sitting here going, it's just penalties. You had a touchdown return wiped out against Notre Dame, and all the false starts kept putting you behind the chains, or you could have done this or that or the other thing. You look at this game, and you go, well, if it wasn't for, you had a touchdown called back on a hold, and it would have ended the game, but then Auburn went down and scored to win 17-16. There's a million examples. That first drive of the third quarter, boom, 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 boom. You're going right down the field. You're going, are we about to go up 20-3 and end this thing? Penalty, penalty, penalty. Last home game, we had a running into the kicker or a late hit on the quarterback down here that kept the drive alive. This game, you had a running into the kicker that was a ticky-tack call, but it was unnecessary to make that contact. You had a late hit, a couple late hits, one on the offensive lineman, one on a defensive lineman, or a personal foul, whatever. So preventable, though. And so I was talking to Seth about it. And he's like, we officially have a penalty problem. And I said, we do, but it doesn't mean it has to continue. And what I mean by that is, it was 2 different issues, the 2 games. It was a lot of false starts and things against Notre Dame. It was a lot of pre-snap stuff. And then in this one, aggression. A lot of it was physical. It was holding. So it wasn't like, it's not like they've been a team that's getting flagged right and left for holding all year through 4 games. That was kind of a newer thing, I think, to have it to that level. So it doesn't mean it has to be a trend and stuff. But I love the fact that you're winning and he can coach off of this. You're winning and you can go in that locker room and just kind of say, instead of beating them down, just say, guys, this is fun. Like, we can keep this going. Mm-hmm. But you got to clean up this crap, and you know it. Like, we can't keep winning like this. Doesn't this feel good? Don't you want to keep doing this? Cut the shit, cut the penalties, cut the, the mistakes, the self-inflicted. Again, like, I'll take some holding calls if you're going to run for 207 yards and gain 450 yards of offense. But it was, you crossed the threshold to where it ended up, it's costing you drives and things like that. So too many penalties. If they can clean that up, man, I mean, if they hadn't done that these last two games, what does it look like? If they don't miss a guy on a punt block, if they don't let Love run out of the back, these are things you can fix.
Yeah.
But man, they fixed a lot each week. They keep fixing things. Like, what people were saying before this game to me? Way too many people. They're like, man, where's the run game at? I thought we'd see more of the run game. Like, dude, the guy ran for 80 against Notre Dame. We couldn't run for 10 against them last year. On 20 carries, 80 yards. Where's the run game? What's wrong with our O-line? They're not giving up sacks. They gave up, one or two yesterday? They gave up, they gave up 4. Never mind.
Well, you said 1 or 2 of them.
They did blitz a lot.
Yeah.
I meant 1 or 2 where he got obliterated, which can't happen. And most of those came off of, or the big hits came via the blitz.
Yeah.
But they're generally protecting Marcel. If you look at the sack numbers this year, what's wrong with the run? They go out and run for 207. Okay. I'm worried about, are they going to get gashed up and carved up by Love and Price in the Notre Dame run game? They hold them in check. Then it's like, man.
Worried about Cam Coleman.
Because this is, there are some real holes in that secondary against Notre Dame. They lock them up. You know what else I'm worried about? Open field tackling.
That was great yesterday.
They were bringing dudes down. They kept trying to get those cheap yards after catch. No, nothing. And leading the way, we got to talk about, and we've mentioned, it's amazing how many defenders we've just mentioned without mentioning Torian York, who I thought played his best game in an A&M uniform.
I agree.
He's had some good ones. This was his best one. I thought he was. So the stat sheet looks fine. It's a good day at the office. 6 solo tackles, 7 total stops, a sack, tackles for loss, pass breakup. That's like a good game. There are a lot of linebacker or players around the country that had similar stats to that. Then you look, he broke up 3 passes, almost had a pick 6. Dart threw that damn thing too hard. I mean, not Dart. I say Jackson Arnold. There's a big difference. Big difference. That dude threw that ball way too hard for my man Torian to catch it. So I don't even play. But 3 hurries, a pass breakup that was almost a pick 6. And by the way, that was a 3rd down, drive ending PBU. And just the way he played was better than what was already an impressive stat sheet. He flew around. He took dudes down in the open field. That sack was super impactful play at a key moment late there. I mentioned the pass breakup ended a drive. The QB hurries, like he was. I say this, and I'm not. This is my favorite A&M player, probably him and Johnny. There are a couple others in there, but like Datwin did this most games in his career. Von Miller wrecked games, but that was Torian on Saturday. It was playing. Von's a different. Von was like an edge, but he's playing a linebacker like Datwin did. And I'm not saying he's Dat, guys, but you see a small linebacker flying around, showing instincts, tackling guys in the open field, not letting anyone out of his sights, making plays in the pass game and the run game. That's what he did the other day. He deserves a ton of credit and mention for that. And I thought he also, you hear Elko talk, you hear them talk. I think he set the tone for like that room this week. And also credit, I think we are by saying all this, but Elko and Jay Bateman, it's a great game plan. You got your players to execute it. Again, they're getting better each week. Do I expect their stats to look as good next week? No. Mississippi State is far superior offensively to Jackson Arnold. I mean,
Jackson. Arnold.
Yeah, Arnold. I meant they're far superior to Auburn offensively.
Yep.
And Blake Shapen is far superior at the quarterback position to Jackson Arnold. So it's not going to look the same.
I mean, they had that game yesterday, too, against Tennessee.
They should have won.
Yeah.
And you wonder if game day would have been here. Instead, if you look at the slate, had Auburn lost to Georgia like a lot of people expected, they might have had game day. You're just that close. If Georgia wins that game and if Mississippi State holds on, and they lost in overtime, but State's good. They're not great. They're good.
They're good enough to move the ball on you.
They're good enough to beat you if you have 13 penalties.
Yeah. And
they're good enough to make it to where, like, hey, you better execute on offense because they're not going to come out and score 10 points this week. You're going to have to score and continue to make big plays on defense. So, yeah, they might get yards. They're going to get some – he's going to hit receivers downfield. They're going to fluff Bothwell and Brennan Thompson and Edwards and Shapen. Those are playmakers. So you're going to have to be dialed in. But with that said, if A&M continues to improve defensively to go with this offense, they're one of those teams. I heard J.D. Piquel say it too. They can beat you in different ways now. So they can lean on the run game if they want. They can, Marcel some week is going to beat somebody with his legs where it's going to be a much bigger factor than it sometimes is. They're going to start beating you with the deep ball. They've already shown they can do it with big plays. That they can win a close game shootout. They can win a defensive slugfest. And I think they could do either of those kind of on any given week, depending on the opponent. Maybe it's a higher scoring game against Mississippi State. Maybe they go into Columbia and you have to win a game that looks similar to Notre Dame. I don't know. But if this defense continues to improve, though, that won't be the case.
Right.
So I love it, David. There are things I wish we saw differently on yesterday, but I'm not ever going to. And here's the thing, too. They're a different looking 16 to 10s. I don't think Auburn sucks on defense.
No, they're pretty good.
I feel a lot better about that than A&M to start the 2020 season beating Vandy 17-12 and a quarterback that had never played before. And it was Vandy before Clark Lee had them as Vandy. So it was just like it was a Derek Mason Vandy team. I think you're like, this was pitiful. This didn't feel that way at all. This felt like they should have blown this team out. The game I watched, one team was way better than the other. Mm-hmm. One team was way better than the other. And that to me was that's where my encouragement lies, my concern lies in the, hey guys, you can't keep shooting yourselves in the foot. Or eventually you're going to blow your foot off and you're going to look up and go, how did we just lose that? It almost happened yesterday, but it really didn't almost happen because that defense was having none of it. They just weren't.
I'm looking at this SEC standings and just how weird to say that you look at the top of it, Ole Miss, that's not weird. I expect Lane Kiffin. I mean,
that's weird to me before the season.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to beat LSU, but before the season, I wouldn't think they'd be as good as they look.
Missouri, Vandy, Oklahoma, all undefeated. A&M, obviously. Like, that to me, like you think about some of the teams that we thought were going to be good. I think Florida being where they are is obviously very interesting. And A&M, that's still a team that can beat you at Kyle Field in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because that defense is that good.
They got a good defense. They're starting to get banged up, though, so it'll be interesting to see.
Hopefully they're not too banged up this week. But Vandy and Missouri being, the season's got to play out. But what Clark Lee's done with Vandy, and also what Drink has done with Missouri, regardless of their schedule, they are a team to watch out for.
No question about it. I think you're nuts if you don't think so. I mean, and standings are wild in the SEC right now, and you look at it, and you can argue all day. I saw the SEC Network guys do it. You're trying to figure out, like, Who are your top 5 teams in the league? It's tough. Here are teams that go through the list of like who's still a contender, legitimately that could find their way to Atlanta.
So like I don't think Vandy's going to be in Atlanta.
I think they are. I mean, I don't think they're going to be in Atlanta, but today
they're a contender.
They're legitimately because here's the deal: they beat Alabama last year. They beat them.
They get them this week too, right?
If they go beat them this weekend, then you have to say they're one of the favorites. And even if they don't, they could go beat Texas and Austin. They could. I'm not saying they will. They certainly could. So Vandy,
Ole Miss,
100%.
Missouri,
Luke. I just did a Luke event, 100%. Missouri, yeah.
Oklahoma, even without John Mateer for a
Especially
couple
Missouri
weeks.
with that schedule. OU, maybe. But even if they lose to Texas, if they don't have Mateer and they lose, they can still recover. Yep. Okay, so OU.
Bama.
Of course. Set themselves up very nicely this week.
LSU? Yes.
Probably. I'm not buying it. I'm saying no, but yeah.
Yeah. Tennessee?
Yeah. Another one I'm not buying.
But Georgia?
Of course. But by the way, Georgia's one miraculous throw and catch away from being 0-2.
Texas?
Yep, sure.
Mississippi? No. I think
they'd had to have won that one.
That's it.
So we're at 9. Did you say A&M?
I haven't said A&M. No.
That's 10 teams out of 16. And look, like you said, you question whether Vandy can hold it up. I question Tennessee and LSU a little bit, but they're certainly all still in the conversation. Mm-hmm. So that's 10 teams. And then you go to those other 6 and Mississippi State.
Better than we thought.
Better than you thought. There's a couple of those teams that you're going a little better than you thought. So,
and I think there's a couple of those teams that
South Carolina. So you got to deal with Sellers in South Carolina. Mississippi State's better than you thought. Arkansas's offense is they didn't look good against Notre Dame, but they're really good. By the way, Taylor Green and that high-powered Petrino offense and what they do at home against Notre Dame. That Notre Dame defense that A&M put 41 on. That great Arkansas offense that people still ranking Taylor Green ahead of Marcel Reed. Pretty much everyone that ranks quarterbacks that wants to do that thing every week puts Green ahead of Reed. People are looking at numbers too much. And I don't think, like, Marcel's game the other day wasn't like a Heisman winning game, but numbers-wise, he was fine and had drops and had plays called back and had an actual touchdown, which was a game-icing touchdown called back. But you're playing the same defense, and Reed goes for 400 yards of offense and three touchdowns on the road and 41 points, and this other guy goes 13 at home, and they lose by a million, and they're still ranking him up there. It's that part is strange to me. Some of the blatant disrespect that people can't get their mind around, that sometimes this guy's going to miss throws and he'll be inaccurate sometimes, but he's more accurate than he's been. And I am of the opinion that those deep balls are going to come because they're taking them with enough regularity. Part of me, I think sometimes I want to see, like, if Marcel will throw it, just to make the decision to throw it just a tick sooner.
A little bit more.
Yeah, but just a tick sooner to where he doesn't have to wind up and chunk it because maybe he's having to throw the ball 5, 7, 8 yards less. Mm-hmm. Just see that guy, because sometimes you can hear from, like, you probably see it up top too, but from field level, up there you can see immediately when they get beat, and their field level you don't see it quite as quickly, and that's why it's always, I like field level and then go on the rewatch. But field level, a lot of times you'll hear the crowd before the quarterback sees it. And sometimes I feel like when in a couple plays that happened, and you could tell, like, he didn't quite launch it in time. And, and I think that makes him have to put more behind it and throw it, try to throw it further, which makes you less accurate. I think that stuff's he's going to figure that out, the timing with the receivers and just a quicker trigger and throwing that. And you're going to see him and those receivers connect more and more on that deep ball, which they've already done several times this year. They've done it more this year in 4 games than they did all of last year. But in these last 2 games, you're going, man, there were some chances to literally run Notre Dame out of there and do the same thing. Certainly do that yesterday without question.
Mm-hmm.
They could have ended that game several different ways, and one of those ways was to hit a couple of those deep shots.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'd close with saying, like, to me, this was a game that a lot of A&M teams lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about both the whole build-up, let-down thing, 1 step forward, 2 step back thing. But I'm also talking about the way that game went. We've seen it a million times. We've also seen A&M have a chance to win a game there at the end, and that pass fall incomplete, and the Notre Dame players rush the field, and you're having to sit there and watch it. Fans that travel are having to sit there and watch it. You're on TV, you're having to sit there and watch it. You see a lesser Auburn team come in here, and I've actually seen it with Auburn, and A&M kind of inexplicably just doesn't play up to snuff, and they lose a football game. This was not that. And again, they never let it get to that. It was close, but it was as far away as Auburn actually driving the field and producing an actual touchdown of their own in that game, which never happened.
Yeah.
So that was a game and a moment where historically, for the most part, and I get it, guys, you can give me exceptions. Everybody on the optimistic side can give me exceptions. Everybody on the negative side can give me exceptions to everything I say. I understand there are exceptions, but more often than not, this moment, that game, is a time A&M takes a step back. And it's not done, and I don't mean the season. None of it's done until they go, finish playing in Austin before the end of the regular season. But it's not done. I mean, this is 1 game of 3 of a homestand. And it's 1 game of 4 against unranked teams to start out SEC play. It gets tougher. Mississippi State's tougher than Auburn. They are. It's a tougher matchup for A&M. I actually think they're a better football team. Then you got Florida and all that talent. And you've got the expectation and the hype. And Florida's going to be back against the wall. And then you go on the road again. So none of this is easy. And you're going to go play on the road in Petrino's first game back, like I said you would. None of that's easy. But neither was Saturday, neither was last Saturday. They figured out ways. So they are 1 step out of 3 on this homestand and 1 step out of 4 of just kind of getting through that stretch of games that you should win, but you're not entitled to win.
Right.
You seem like the better team per not just what we're seeing, but what the rankings say and what you've accomplished as you're the better team in these 4 games, but you have to play like it for 4 straight Saturdays. 1 down, 3 to go.
Thank you, Billy.
All right, bud.
We'll have a lot more tomorrow on TexAgs Live. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors.